Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Session 2. Josh, did you get a chance to have a look at the last week's session? Because there are just a few bits at the front end that we'll go a quick revision over, so I know whether to bother you or not with a few questions.
Not fully.
Not
watched it fully yet, so.
All right, mate. If you're comfortable, jump in and share your thoughts, even if you haven't prepared anything. But would be good to go back and have a look at that last session, particularly around coaching philosophies and some of the other things we discussed. But we'll have a quick chat about those now for those people who were in the session last time around. So yeah, feel free to jump in. Okay. So from last week, just for those people who were on the session, just a quick overview. Given there's quite a bit to get through, and I'd like to have a bit more discussion around some of the things for the new topics. We might just jump to the 2 points there around sharing your preferred leadership style and sharing your coaching philosophy for those people who've done a little bit of homework. Jace, we might kick off with you, mate, if that's all right.
I guess that's fine. So, shared preferred leadership style, a mixture of those three things. Unfortunately, I forgot what they were. Inclusiveness. But I do remember,
So the three styles were directive, laissez-faire, and what was the other one off the top of my head? Just
cooperative, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
So a combination of those three, depending on mood, and that could be mine, or it could be the players, and maybe circumstances dictate what needs to be done too.
Yeah. Is there where's your preferred style, mate? If you, if you could just choose and stay in one particular style, where do you reckon you fit?
I think I'd fit in the middle, but it's mainly because I've been coaching juniors, so it's sort of they need a little bit more direction, perhaps, than other older kids.
Yeah. Great. Terrific. And you happy to share your coaching philosophy too, mate, in terms of
certainly
values and etc. you'd like to put in?
Do the best and do the best you can and have a fun doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty important things to keep in mind for a junior coach. I've got a question for you coming up, which will play nicely into that too. So keep that front of mind, Jace. But definitely, being yourself and enjoying it at the same time as a coach is important. You spend a lot of time doing it, so don't try and be what you're not. I suppose is the key message there. Great, thank you. Who else we got on? Let me have a look here. Raja, what would you like to share your preferred leadership style and perhaps talk about your coaching philosophy as well, mate?
Just finishing up another call.
Yes, I would love to share it. I am winding up another call. I prepared a presentation, one slider for my coaching philosophy too.
Oh, okay. Do you want to share that? I'll stop sharing. Hang on.
When he's just finishing the call now, are you, Raja?
Yeah, give me a minute.
Come back in a couple of minutes.
Come back to us.
Yeah.
No worries, mate. Who else we got there? Hi, Manora. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Rob.
Mate, we're just talking about leadership style and coaching philosophy. Where do you reckon you fall into in terms of leadership style? Are you a bit more casual? Are you quite directive? What's your preference?
Well, I would say casual.
Yep. So fairly easygoing.
Yeah.
I think most of us sort of fall into that category. That's a preferred style. And what about your coaching philosophy, mate? Have you had a chance to think about, what are the key values for you when you're building your coaching? What are the key things you always want to include and some of those sort of values behind that?
Well, I would say the inclusivity, it would be one of the key things amongst everybody who's involved. And so getting best of everybody is in terms of listening. So those are the more two key things that I use in terms of a team culture or team environment, even at work. So, and that has worked wonders most of the time.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Yeah, very, very important. People feel like they're part of that team, don't they? And have a chance to have some input. And they feel like a valued member that way, and are more likely to contribute and be successful. Yeah, really good points, mate. Thank you. Bluey, what about you, mate? You want to share yours? I know I've heard yours before, but some of the other guys might not have.
Yeah, I mean, I think my style also depends on the the experience and the age of the kids that we're working with. I would probably fall in between more directive and participative. I like to, over the season, as I get to know the kids better and as they mature and start to understand what we're trying to do in, during training or whatever, give them a bit more ownership and a bit more, I guess. So that I think that's a good way, because then they're probably not going to stuff around as much if they're kind of direct. They're also they feel like they're part of the planning. So they end up doing something that's fun. So I think somewhere in between directive, participative. I've got a pretty clear philosophy. It basically just revolves around, I think, similar to what yours did. I mean, providing a fun environment where they can, where kind of fair play and kind of honest efforts rewarded. I think it's really important that we nurture these, young people and build, kind of relationships with other teammates. So allowing that interaction with teammates in a safe environment to ensure they get the most out of the whatever session you're doing or the game, and they're enjoying it. So fun, enjoyment, and also development. So a real focus on individuals, even though it's a team game, seeing individuals develop over a period of time. So, I think that's really important. And that's the most rewarding part for me, is seeing a kid, a young person come through who, particularly if they're, if they're just learning the game, and seeing them, their development over a year. And then, the more you do it, you see that over multiple years is really rewarding. So I think fun, enjoyment, development are the key, that's what my philosophy focuses on. So
fantastic, mate. Thank you. Who else we got? Raj, are you with us now? You want to share? Yep, I'll stop sharing and you can show us your coaching philosophy.
I want to ensure I've written on the paper first. As a person who is, getting onto the pitch game plan. So let me just put up mine. There is the Zoom and share screen. Let me share screen one. Okay, let's go and share screen.
Very professional, mate.
Something I found it. This is why I am thinking I want to be doing it here.
Yeah.
I am relating to my purpose of life to whatever I'm doing. So I want to see our kids are learning, cherishing, and achieving in our safe environment. So with this in my mind, what am I going to do? I thought, okay, let me create some better and ethical cricketing generation, next generation. So it is not that 1 year I'm coaching here. I want to go travel along with you guys, understand your values. My values are teamwork, respect, continuous learning. And once all of them are there, then we can go into the goals and challenging the goals for each individual. Yeah, I want, more than winning the games. I feel like we should be, as parents and team together, we should be cherishing and learning the learning first, and then followed by cherishing the experience while associated with NCC. This is what I have in mind.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, mate, and that's the broader aspect of coaching too, isn't it? We're making better people, hopefully, as coaches, not just skills. There's a whole, hopefully they make good, sound decisions, and we can guide them on that path about being good people as well as good cricketers at the same time. So I really like that, mate. And the respect bit, I think, is really important. I think we're seeing more of a shift towards that with all the different movements happening. The Black Lives Matter type approach and things like that. All those things can be imparted through a really good coach and setting good role modeling behaviours around the way you behave, and then also engendering that in our players as well. So fantastic, mate. Love it. I think there might be a job, Bluey, for someone to take over some of these training sessions moving forward at those presentation skills. Great work, Roger. Rob, thanks for joining us, mate. We're just having a quick chat about coaching philosophies and leadership styles. Anything you want to quickly add before we move on, mate?
Yeah, I got. Sorry, I was actually at the field walking the dogs. I was picking up just so we could. Yeah, look, I think I'm pretty fortunate that, fortunate/unfortunate, it's a mixed bag. All the coaching I've been doing is under nines. So as far as coaching styles go, you have to be aware that you can't be a disciplinarian all the time. It doesn't work like that. You've got to be almost like the friendly father figure, kind of coaxing them along. Shouting at them doesn't really do much. So yeah, and I think you've got to kind of be aware that you've got to be a shoulder to cry on the wrist, and you've got to be one of the nice guys. Obviously, as it gets older, you could probably be more of the forceful, authoritarian, Justin Langer sort of style. But at the moment, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's quite working for Justin Langer though all the time. Some feedback.
I think he's a perfect example of horses for courses. Like when he started, it was exactly what they needed.
Yeah.
Maybe now he needs to start pulling back a bit. And I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Really good point, mate. What about Josh? Anything you want to share, mate? Or Sandy, if he's on now?
I can go if you want. Yeah. So in terms of leadership styles, I think it's a mixture of both. Me personally would be directive and inclusive styles, and I guess, like it has been covered before, it depends on the players' skill levels. And in terms of coaching philosophy, I just tell players to have fun, and tell them to take all the opportunities to improve as a player and as a person. And most importantly, just like be yourself in a good way.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Love it. Josh, anything you want to share, mate?
I think sort of the leadership style I sort of go for is sort of like a mixture of both. You got to be sort of inclusive. I think I'll be more inclusive and directive. Just trying to make sure that everyone's having fun and that they're getting what they want out of each session.
Yeah.
In a match. And then I think the philosophy, I think it's just more using their own experience into it and just trying to make sure every single game training session is more fun and enjoyable. They can get the best out of each situation that they get, every opportunity that they take.
Fantastic, mate. Yeah, great. If you do nothing else as a coach, if they go away having had a good time, I think you've done a good job. We also want to get some skill development in there, and we'll talk about the structure of a session shortly, but it's really important that they enjoy playing the game, because that's what's going to keep them in the game long term. Yeah. All right.
Even more so, Rob, in the times we live in now, it's really important that when we do get out there, it's very much a focus on fun, and getting the kids involved, and giving them an outlet for their activity and frustrations or whatever. But you want them to just want to come to cricket even more than ever before. So
yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Bluey. All right, just a couple of little things just to get the brains active. We did some rebus puzzles last week for those who weren't on the call. The shape of the words, the positioning of the words themselves will actually give you a common phrase or some common words that you should be able to associate with once we actually get the answer. This is a really tough one today. It's a little bit cryptic. So I'll give you 20 seconds to have a quick look at and try and understand what we're trying to say here through this little group and collection of words in the positioning we've got. All right. Any guesses, guys? What this might be?
You got me.
Oh, he's got Jace.
I feel like I'm 60%, but nowhere closer.
All right, let's talk out loud. What are you thinking, people? Stick your mics on and just give me some thoughts.
Hamlet over forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 4 words. Yeah. So there's, definitely multiple words. You're on the right.
It could be like forward under Hamlet as well.
Yeah. So what is Hamlet?
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare. Yeah. Stretch that out a bit more.
It's Denmark.
What's that? Jace?
Is it trying to say?
Prince of Denmark.
Sorry, I missed that. Is it what?
Monora wants to say.
What?
Now, I was going to say, is it trying to say that words or vocabulary matters?
Not quite. Let's go along that Shakespearean bit. How is Shakespeare sometimes delivered?
As a play.
Play, yeah. There you go. There's
Play forward.
What's that?
Play forward.
Not quite. We've got to use what's there in front of us. So there's
play on words.
Oh, who's that?
Nice. Yeah, Jace.
Jace, was it?
Yeah.
Good job.
That's a good playing word.
Yeah.
That's a really tough one. I've let people stew on that one, and we've come back to it at the end of the session previously because they couldn't get it. But great job. All right, everyone see that now that we're positioning. Yeah.
Yeah. That was an assist by me, by the way, Jace.
Definitely.
I reckon it was 70% to Jace. All right, where are we headed today? Quick overview. So we're going to talk about how to get parental buy-in, how to plan and run a training session, and we'll give you just some samples. I'll show you one I've already developed. As a little bit of homework, we'll get you to develop one as well. And what I'm doing this year, I'm actually in my spare time, which is quite prevalent at the moment with COVID, so it's been good for the club. I've been putting down a whole bunch of skills and drills sessions onto paper, and I'm going to have them at the club. So a lot of these sessions are applicable to juniors as well. So I think I'm up to nearly 20. So you can pull them out. We'll have a little laminated sheet, and I'll probably just stick them somewhere that people can access. So you can pull out some of those. And just today, and we'll talk about this as the last part of the session, I've seen a great training planning tool that's arrived from Cricket Australia, and you can all access that, and I'll show you how to do that at the end of the session as well. So that'll be, I think, even more worthwhile than my little laminated sessions that I'm doing. It looks fantastic from my 5-minute play in the system a little bit earlier today. Anything else you're expecting today, people? All good? Happy with that? Just a quick chat. And I think we've covered this off a little bit already. So why do kids drop out of sport? What are some of those reasons?
First of all, that's me in the middle of that picture.
The star man.
Yeah, fantastic. I hardly would have recognised you.
I know. I lost weight since then.
And you're not looking as green, mate.
Yeah, I know.
So jump in. Why do kids drop out of sport?
I think friends, fun.
Yep, definitely. They follow their friends to other sports. Yep, fun. Yep, exactly. What else?
Maybe studies and career pathways.
Yeah, absolutely. They get higher priorities. They take over than the sport. Yeah, fantastic.
Clashes.
Time clashes, absolutely. If I don't know about you, but if I look at my, if I pulled out my timetable of when I was 10, 11 years of age, I think that timetable would be a lot busier now if I compared it against a kid of a similar age, with so many different things on their agenda, sort of happening. I think I played cricket and I played footy and a couple of things, and it alternated over the different seasons rather than doing 2 or 3 things at once, which a lot of kids are doing. So many more opportunities, which is great for the kids, but puts a lot of time pressure on what they can focus on. So as a coach, we need to be mindful of all those things, don't we? So you guys, a lot of you mentioned in your coaching philosophy about having fun. That's really the key. If they have fun, they're more likely to stick at it for longer. Even when it's time for, they'll make the decision to come and play cricket, because they really enjoyed it and they love the game. So that's really the message there. All right, another question for you. How do we get parental buy-in? What are some of the things you've used before, if you've been a coach before, or if you want to just extrapolate out how you might do it as a first-time coach?
Well, I can go first again. I've been kind of told one of the good things to do is to, before the start of the season, send a message to the parents via the WhatsApp group or anything to give them a view as to what your goal is for the season. So it's goals, how you want to run things, any rules you want to set down, such as like if there's any issues on the game day, chat to me afterwards, not during. Which I find I did it last year for the basketball. That seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I love it. Love it. Anyone else want to jump in?
Engage them in training.
Yeah, bring them in. Yep. So how do you do that, Jace? How do you get that up and running?
The last couple of years, I've done this little exercise. I grab a ball and I start throwing it around amongst the kids, trying to get them to say their name when they're going to try and catch it. And then after that, we go to the next level where they then throw the ball to someone that and say the other person's name. And the third thing I do is then get the parents to come in and do the same thing with Saul. So the kids get to know the parents, and we all start to get to know each other's names.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. So there's a couple of options already there. Do it even before you start. Then when you get them in front of you, there's your second opportunity. Fantastic. Get them involved in the games and running the sessions. Definitely makes your life easier and means you might be able to add a little bit more value if you're not actually tied up in actually delivering it. You can walk around and support and do some specific coaching where you can. Maybe one more person.
Maybe before you can advertise coaching opportunities or opportunities to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Give them some options. Tell them here's some things that you could do to help out and support, and give them a list to choose from. Fantastic. If you can do a bit of pre-planning. We know from the discussions last week, the really critical role of the team manager. So you might be the coach, but you're going to need some support in the organisation week to week, and managing and scoring and those sort of things. So let's tell people that there's a team manager role up front, what it involves. So hopefully we get a nomination for that. But tell them some of those minor roles as well. We need people to help set up on game day. If you can get away from work early, or you're not actually working, perhaps you can get there a little bit earlier than maybe you as a coach who's coming straight from work. So lots of opportunities for parental buy-in. I'll just pop up a few things I've used previously. And some of these I've actually pinched from the session last week. We had last year, sorry. So really important that you learn the names. Jace, you're right, hit the nail on the head. in terms of finding out people's names. Really, really important. Then you can actually engage them more easily when you know someone's name, rather than throwing out a general question to a group. You can target people by using names. And Bluey's got all those lists, and I'm pretty certain that as a coach, you get a list of all the parents and all your players anyway at the start, and make sure you make an effort to get in and work out who's who, because it's really important. Rob, you hit the second one there on the head as well. Get an email out, or get a WhatsApp group happening, something to communicate. And you can do that even before you start. Now, COVID is giving us opportunity to do a few more of those things beforehand, before we actually start. Pick up the phone. It's a little bit more personal than an email. If you've got time to do that, target a few key messages, have it all written down in front of you before you ring, and make sure you give everyone an opportunity to hear those key messages and tick them off. And you might actually ask, as one of those key messages, I'm after a team manager. Is that something that I can interest you in? Would you like to know some more information during that phone call as well? So yeah, make sure you get out early and communicate hard. It makes your life so much easier later on. And then lastly, the other bit that Jason mentioned as well, when you get people in front of you, get them involved straight away. And in that phone call or email or WhatsApp group, let them know that you don't need to be a great cricketer to be an assistant at training. I'm going to run the show as coach, but what I'd like you guys to do is be around, so I can just throw some few easy things to you to help out. Might be catching, might be throwing, might be just standing and making sure the kids are organised. But you don't need a lot of cricket knowledge to do some of those things. You just need to be a parent and you have those skills in dealing with kids, which they've already got. So make sure you're highlighting those. And I've also touched on what Sandy mentioned there as well. Outline the roles. Here's some fun roles you can be involved, and it'll probably help you as a parent when you go and play with your kids as well. So highlight the benefits to them being more involved, so they can actually impart some of those skills and knowledge that they've picked up during the sessions when they go home, where the majority of the learning takes place. We've only got them for an hour and a half, but there's a lot more time at home. Anyone want to add anything else to that before we move on? All good? The overarching bit there, and all of those things we spoke about, is about building relationships with the parents. Okay, so as a coach, to be a successful coach, we're not only trying to build a relationship with our players. In junior cricket, we also need the involvement of the parents, and that's by getting to know their names, understanding maybe a little bit about what they do, what's their job, who they barrack for in the footy, where are they from. If they've come from another country, invest in the parents, so you're building relationships. Then they're more likely to jump in and help you out, because you've actually made an effort to get to know them as well. So that's all those things we spoke about, is all about building a relationship. Once you've got a relationship, it's much easier to ask for assistance and get people involved. So make sure you're working on those things. All right, we're going to run a training session, and we're now in the season. Let's pretend we're in the season started, which is a bit hard to imagine at the moment, but hopefully not too far away. Let's pretend we're in the middle of that season. We might have had a game the week before. How are we going to map out our training session? What are the key things we need to include in every session? Might start with you, Minora, and I'll just grab maybe a couple of others as we go, if you're happy to jump in, mate.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I haven't been a coach ever before. So, but from what I've seen from the past seasons, being a parent around, is I think at the beginning of the training session, I think good recap of the past match or what the experience was would be good.
Yeah, fantastic.
Talking around what worked well, what didn't go well, what could have done better, sort of a thing.
Yeah, you're going to make a great coach, mate. You're right on it. Yeah.
So that brings back the sort of the mindset of kids to the match day.
Yeah.
And then from there onwards to sort of capitalize on the training.
Yeah, absolutely. And that becomes, that feedback in terms of the things that went well and things that we could perhaps improve on. The things that we could improve on now actually gives us a focus for that training session.
Yeah.
So we can target some skills or, game day situations as need be to help improve the next time we jump out on game day. So fantastic, mate. What other things do we want to include? Rob, you want to jump in there, mate?
Warm up. It's always important.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And what are we trying to do in that warm up? What's the aim?
Normally I try and get them ready to do some skills-based training as far as like getting ready, ready to play. So it's more of a fun warm up.
Yeah.
And just to get sunk into the mindset of, okay, now I need to start working.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Great. What else? Josh, you want to give us something else you might want to include in a training session?
So like an aim for the session, what you want to work on, that you can like break down different parts of what did well in the previous match, and then you work on that to build on it. So you use some batting and then bowling and fielding, and you just work on those.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to spell out your objective to where you're heading for the session?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's really important. We put a picture in their minds. This is what we're going to be doing today. So they start imagining, all right, we're going to be working on some batting or bowling, and those particular aspects might be running between wickets. Yep, like it. Good. Anything else we need to add? And anyone can jump in here now.
Some people may have individual goals, so we can try and work with them. Some people may want to improve their fielding or batting, so we can give like drills to them to improve those skill sets.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Yep. Yeah, and that's the important part of every training session, is that we're trying to cater for the individual needs. Now, we're going to run some things that cater for the masses, but the need within those skills and drills, whatever we've got planned, there also needs to be an opportunity for the people who are more advanced to still be challenged, but not without actually, making the kids who are struggling a little bit feel like they're out of their comfort zone. So there needs to have opportunities for people to be able to develop within their sort of skill level. So yeah, good, really good points. I might just pop up the list here. Oh, go back up. So yeah, definitely an introduction, a quick wrap up, and we'll talk more about that in a bit of detail for each of these in a minute. A quick warm up. 10 minutes is probably sufficient for kids, depending on how young they are. You might want to spend a bit more time on games as the warm up. Skill development is a really important part. Now, this is where the kids go, oh, I don't really want to just focus on one particular skill, but you can make those skills interesting by adding a little bit of competition. So it becomes a game-based skill maybe, with some targets and in competition between groups or pairs or individuals as well. Modified game. So we're actually taking that skill we've just learnt perhaps and putting it into a situation which is less controlled, more game-like, but still allowing a level of confidence to be performing at. And the last bit is that cool down and next game planning. So you might have talked about how the last game went at the start, and then we'll say, well, we've got the top team coming up this week. We played them 4 weeks ago. We know they're really strong on batting, and if we bowl down leg side, we're going to get hit. So we really need to focus on maybe bowling on off stump and outside. So some of that game day planning as well. Let's have a look at some of those or those aspects in a little bit more detail. Introduction, quick wrap. We want to keep it short for this this introduction. We don't want people standing around, particularly when it's a little bit cool. And we've just done a really we want to focus here, and we're about to head into an exciting little warm up. We want to get into the stuff that they're more interested in rather than the talking as well. Love the fact, Minoru, you said let's talk about the positives and some of the development areas. As a coach, you want to focus a little bit more on the positives, but we've got to talk about the things they didn't do well for an improvement factor. So try and balance that up as much as possible. And highlighting areas where they can improve. Obviously, we've talked about that, and linking the training, where we're going, and the plan for today. I think we've already mentioned that too. So, warm up. We talked quickly, Rob spoke quickly about while we're warming up, we're trying to do some activities relevant to the game. Are there any other reasons we might want to do a warm up?
It engages the kids.
Sorry, got a couple there.
I said prevent injuries.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Yeah, absolutely. So probably less important for the really young kids because they're so flexible and they're very unlikely to get sort of hamstring tears at that age. Not impossible, but less likely. But as coaches, what we're also trying to do is develop behaviours that are going to be beneficial to them later on. So we spend maybe a tiny bit of training time on stretching when they're young. But as they get older, we're going to spend more time on that because it's actually more important for injury prevention as we go along. But because we've set the sort of benchmark early, a little bit of stretching and a little bit more, it becomes part of the normal routine. And it'll become vital when we get to blokes of my age. If we don't do a proper warm-up, we actually suffer the consequences for quite a long period of time as a result. So yeah, really good point, that injury prevention. It's our first chance to actually get them on the journey too. So if they're having fun from the word go, that's why I'm saying that quick introduction, short and sharp, quick revision of the game, and then get into the fun stuff. That's the stuff they remember. I had a good time because we had a great warm-up with a couple of fun games. And the injury prevention bit, obviously, getting some blood flow through the muscles, the aerobic activity, and use for the kids just things that they really enjoy and try and make them different. Kids love a little bit of routine, but we want to make sure that routine doesn't become monotonous. So try and find some different warm-up games. Maybe if you're doing two at the start, maybe one's new and one's a repeat of one we've done before. So you're not constantly having to pull a new cat out of the bag, sorry. Some of the other things, static stretching, as you get into the older groups, you probably want to spend a little bit more time on these things. But initially, it's maybe just a really quick target the big major groups, hamstrings, calf, groin, hip flexors. You can go into all those different things, but maybe pick 4 for the younger kids, and maybe you do 6 as they get to 16s, and maybe there's 7 or 8 stretches as they get a bit older. But if you talk to physios nowadays too, their focus is much more on functional warm-ups rather than static stretches. So doing activities that are actually relevant to what they're about to do. So they're going to do walking lunges, the dynamic stretches. So we're engaging the glutes and hamstrings prior to actually going really fast in a game. So they've been activated rather than just doing a static stretch, which is a little bit more old school. So, and my pet hate, don't really like laps. I reckon we're a little bit lazy if we're just sending kids off on laps. Now, we've all done it, but it's usually because I'm not prepared. And I'll stick my hand up and say sometimes I've just rocked up to a session. I haven't had a chance to put out any cones or anything for the first drill or the first warm-up activity. And I might say, all right, boys, just quick lap, come back and I'll be ready to go. That's probably the only time it's appropriate. Otherwise, make it a little bit more engaging. Play a game, get there a little bit earlier and set it up. Any other thoughts on warm-up, things that have worked well for you, perhaps? Yeah, Jace?
It gets the blood running, so you get endorphins from it. You want to go and do more. So getting that starting up and getting everything running, it's very important. Yeah,
you start to feel good about yourself, don't you, when you do some regular exercise, and that's all part of it. Yeah, fantastic. All right, skill development. What do we mean by skill development? If we have to break it down a little bit more, what am I actually trying to do specifically here?
Improve muscle memory on different skill sets, especially batting, like shots.
Someone sounds like they're studying skill acquisition or something, or biomechanics at school, Sandy.
Oh no, I just know about this.
Good, really like it, mate. That muscle memory is really important. You've probably heard of the 10,000 hour rule, perhaps somewhere along the way. Like if we practice and practice and practice in a really good environment, eventually we become really talented and high performing of that skill. Not everyone gets to that really elite level, but all of us can improve by continuous practice and building muscle memory, and as long as it's the correct muscle memory and you're training in the right way. So yeah, really important. What are we actually trying to do specifically in some of our drills? We're actually trying to break down maybe some bad technique and influence them to move towards the new one. So there might be some error correction, as well as showing them new movements that we want them to learn, depending on how much they've done before they come to us as a coach. Okay. In terms of how much time we spend on skill development in a training session, the older the kids, generally the more we spend on skill development and game-based situational training. The younger kids, as they kick into Woolworths Blasters, going through the sevens, etc., it's really about game-based fun activities with a few cricket skills thrown in, and then we progressively increase the amount of skill practice and drills that we do as they get older. Obviously starting with the basics and increasing the challenge factor to challenge those kids as they get better and better. Just some examples there. You might have a set of stumps set up and we do target bowling as a basic skill activity. And then we can change that skill development factor by moving that crease further away that they bowl from, start them off nice and close, increase the chances of hitting, and maybe take some of those stumps away. Maybe we take the one stump away and they've only got two to aim for. In terms of skill development, it's getting harder and focusing the skills a little bit more. So lots of things you can do in terms of changing that skill and drill to make it a little bit harder or easier, depending on what you're trying to do. And that's the important bit as coach, that you can set some variety in those skill development sessions to help develop those skills faster for the kids who are a little bit slower, and also giving the challenge to the more advanced kids. Any questions on that? No? Okay. Modified game. What do I mean by modified game? What's something you may have done, or an example?
Alter the rules of the actual game.
Yeah. Can you give me an example, Sandy? Maybe?
Well, like when I played juniors, like in under 15s, our coach did like tippity, like to improve our running. Yeah. So as soon as you hit the ball, you just run, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. So what that coach has effectively done is increase the number of times you actually run in a small period of time to practice your running between wickets. So yeah, great little drill. As long as those kids don't transfer those skills into, random running later on, which we've seen a little bit of in junior cricket, not quite knowing it. And so, yeah, but I love it. They get a lot more opportunities to call, turn, watch the ball as they're running and turning, those sort of things in a short period of time. Fantastic. What's some of the benefits of a modified game over a normal game?
You can focus on one skill at a time. You're not worrying about, so the other way to modify things is, do a tennis ball game. You're not having to worry about putting pads on, so you're not wasting time on that side of things. If you want to focus on things like, field placements and backing up and those kind of things, if you're trying to do some game day kind of simulation in the middle, and that can be from, Super Sevens right through to under 18s, you can still do that with a tennis ball and get some, some really good benefits out of it, and not have to worry about, padding up, and you don't even need a bowler. You just need someone throwing the ball and someone hitting it out. Basically, it's about going to the right place in the field and that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, simple things like changing the ball you're using might bounce more, might be easier. Then you can make it harder if they're doing that really successfully.
Fantastic. I love that what you mentioned first, Bluey, is about focusing on one skill. We take all the other things out of play and we just focus in on a particular skill. And as they get better, we add maybe another skill to the same time. So the running between wickets example that you gave, Sandy, we might actually have a ball rolling out after we've practiced just getting them all running in lines with just a ball being placed, no fielders worrying about run out. We're just focusing on the skill of change, maybe turning, calling, and then we add in some fielders, and now you've actually got to judge whether you can actually make a single in that tippity type situation, and backing up and all those things get practiced a little bit more. The main thing we're trying to do is increase their confidence in a controlled environment so they can actually master the skill without having to worry about all those other things, and the stress goes down, so performance tends to go up. And then we introduce a few more variables, increasing the stresses, but hopefully now that they've got a basis for the skill, they can now take it to the next step and do that under pressure. And that's what we're trying to do through the modified games, but increasing the skill levels in a shorter period of time by doing that. Similar things we mentioned before, younger kids, more fun games, less sort of cricket based in terms of skill. And then, the older kids, we can reduce players, we can reduce overs, we can target specific skills, we can introduce some competition. And the last point there is we don't want to do the modified game for the whole session. We still want to have some balance in these different segments, but we can use it as a really good reward, and particularly if they enjoy it. So they've had a great win or a couple of great wins, maybe we can use a modified game as a bit of a reward as well. But don't just use it as the focus for the whole session, I suppose is the message there, because it's very hard to keep participation rates high in a game situation. In terms of one-on-one or one-on-two type sort of coaching, etc. Any questions on that before we move on? Nope. Okay. And the last bit, cool down. So more important, obviously, as we get older, why are we doing a cool down? And what are some of the other things we might want to do in that cool down for the younger kids?
Very similar to warm-ups, the reasons behind it.
Yep, so injury prevention was one you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what they've found is, if we've had a really sort of full-on session, we often get a build-up of lactic acid, and a little bit of sort of low-intensity sort of aerobic activity at the back end of a session can help break that up and mean you're less sore moving forward the next day or two, so you recover better as a result of the cool down. What are some of the other things we might cover off in a cool down? Obviously, the younger kids, again, injuries aren't such a big issue for us. What sort of things might you be doing as a coach in the cool down as a replacement?
Can we summarize anything that they have done that day?
Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. So a quick summary of the things we covered off during the session. The importance of that from a learning perspective is that they're more likely to remember it if you get them to answer a few questions and they have to articulate it. So it's proven that if you can get people to repeat things that you've told them throughout the session, they're more likely to be able to repeat those behaviours and take in that knowledge. So it's a really, really important part of teaching and coaching. Yeah, fantastic, mate. What about if we're in the middle of a season? What other things might you be talking about?
Maybe plan for the next game, upcoming game.
Spot on, mate. Yep, like it. Okay, so we might be reinforcing who's coming up. Here's your opportunity before the last chance to speak to the group. You might get the parents in to talk about the time we want everyone there. But yeah, use that cool down time or the end of session wrap up to do some of those things. And again, with the older kids, we might just repeat some of those stretches again in building that sort of routine for successful cricket life later on when we're a bit older. All right, some training tips. Me just sharing some of our knowledge. So how to run good training sessions. These are the things I'm focusing on. And at the end of this, I'll give you a chance to add your tips too, and might incorporate that for version 3 of these online coaching programs. So first and foremost for me, and I think you guys might remember if you looked at my coaching philosophy last time around, it was making sure that there's not a lot of people standing around waiting for their opportunity to be part of that drill. So if anything you do, apart from having fun, make sure people are engaged most of the time as well. They're actually active in your session most of the time. There are going to be times when you're going to have to stop and talk to a couple of kids or and focus on smaller groups, but let's make sure that people are really engaged in our sessions. And the last bit on that one, parents, the more helpers you have, the smaller your groups, the more actively involved people are throughout the sessions too. The second one there, make sure there's opportunities for success. So build into your drills and have in the back of your mind, how can I make this easier? How can I make this harder within a skill or drill that you're running? So have those little backups when you're doing your preparation. If someone's really struggling, how can I break this down? You might have to take that person off to do some one-on-one or get a parent involved to do the one-on-one if you're running the main session. That's fine, but give them a little bit of support to get them over the line, but make sure you've got that support around you to make sure the rest of the group keeps moving. If you're having to do that sort of smaller group stuff to get people tracking along successfully. Similar one here, building some games with an emphasis on individual improvement, but also the long-term stuff for the group. Definitely learn people's names. The more you can just sing out a name, you'll be amazed how much better your attention gets. If you're a new coach, learn those names and be able to drop them really quickly, and you'll get their attention back a lot quicker, rather than saying, guys, or girls, listen, they don't know who they're being targeted, who's being targeted. You need to actually use a name to focus in on the people who aren't perhaps listening or doing what was expected. Little tip, get a whistle or have music or some sort of horn or whatever you use just to get people's attention, particularly if you're running a really big group and you've got parents running mini groups which are spread out across the oval. If you want to stop everyone quickly, refocus or move to the next activity, whatever, a whistle or playing some music through some speakers, stop and start. The kids will get used to that routine. They'll hear the whistle and they'll react in the same way once you've set it down for the first few sessions. But give them some sort of routine around whatever you're using to get behaviour on track. Music in nets, I'll use it particularly, the girls respond really well to music and being able to choose their own music. I'm sure the guys would respond just as effectively in your sessions too. And as a reward, maybe they get to choose the music when we're in the nets as an opportunity, as a bit of a reward for doing things really well, or the best player from the weekend, or whatever you want to make it. But give them again some choice around that. What are your thoughts on things that we can do, guys, in terms of making it a really effective training? What else do you do?
Never rest on your laurels.
Yeah, and what do you mean by that, Chase? Just elaborate a little bit more.
Don't necessarily, you can use a very similar game week after week, but you need to change it. You can't just have it the same thing every time. So modify the rules of the game as we're going along. So when we do yes, no, wait, it certainly evolves over the course of a season.
Yeah, good. Yeah, keep them on their toes. So give them things they're familiar with so they know what's coming up. But yeah, tweak them a little bit. Keep them on their toes. Yeah, I like it. Anything else, people? Happy?
Probably not the start of every session, but certainly the start of the first session. I like to to set some ground rules around, particularly around respect. I think it was a word that came up when we talked about philosophies, but I think respect for your teammates, being very clear of the fact that you're here, you know, we've only got an hour and a half every week to train. Catch up with your mates, talk to them, have fun by all means, but we're here to learn about cricket. So, you know, I think just setting some pretty fair and reasonable ground rules around, you know, there's people alongside you who want to be learning. So let's not be distracting them every time we break up into groups or every time we, you know, have a little bit of a break. But as I said, by all means, once you've had a bowl and you go back and you're waiting for your bowl to bowl again, chat with your mates, of course. But we're here to learn skills and get better at cricket. So I think that's just important to set the scene early in the season, and you know, the start of the first session, for example.
And I think that's really important. But it's a really good point. Kids like boundaries. They don't need to know what those boundaries are. And setting them up front, more likely to actually be conducive to following them. Okay, I've got a little template here, and I think you might have got this email from Bluey earlier in the day as well, just a little word template. So if you'd like to create some of your own little lesson plans, highly suggest you do that, because you've got a little routine ready to go. What happens often is we'll be rushed. We're flying to that training session. We get there and we go, okay, what am I going to do? And that shows in your session. Now, I've been doing it for a long time, and I still find if I do a little bit of preparation, even though I've got all this stuff in my head from years and years of delivering coaching sessions, I still do a little bit of planning before I rock up, because I want to look like I'm organised and know what's going on, and I want to be prepared so we can get straight into it. So something like this is really useful. So there's a number of different areas we've got here. Obviously, we want to have objectives and what are our goals, and often there'll be you'll do your lesson plan based on what's happened in the week before in the game. So you might set this up maybe on a Sunday night, if before we forget what's happened on the Saturday or the Friday whenever we're playing, or Sunday, some of you as well. So you've got it a few days in advance, and then we can just pull it out and run with it. So as you can see there in terms of this training template, it's pretty straightforward, and this should, maybe initially it might take you 20 minutes to half an hour to do one of these, because you've got to sit down for the first time and map it all out. But what you'll find is you'll just be able to do this in 5-10 minutes. And some of you have been experienced coaches for a while. Have any of you used this sort of planning template before? And am I correct in assuming it gets quicker and quicker the more you do?
Definitely. After I learnt this the last year during this session, I've used it pretty religiously, and it's so helpful.
Fantastic. Thanks, mate. So yeah, get used to it. And as I said, I'm going to show you something that's even better than having to do a handwritten one. For those of you who love using apps, etc., you'll love what I'm about to show you. Before we move on to that, here's an example of one that I completed a little bit earlier. I'll put a lot of detail into this, and typically you probably wouldn't put so much detail into one, but I wanted to show you what sort of you could do, and probably went to the nth degree in terms of doing this sort of example for you. But you can see there, I've roughly mapped out how long I'm going to run this for, and typically my sessions with the girls were about 90 minutes. And here's all the equipment I'm going to need. So when I rock up and go straight to the storeroom, pull all that out, or get the parents, if I can hand this to one of the parents and say, can you get all these things out, while I go and set something up as well. So that's all mapped out there. We've got a real focus for the session. And as you quite rightly pointed out, I'm going to set that example right up front. This is what we're going to be covering off today, as based on the quick revision we've done. This is what we're going to be focusing on for our session today. And then I know exactly what my warm-up activities. I can probably have those cones set up for snowball tag already out there. And I might have some cones set up when we're going to work in pairs for throwing the tennis ball, etc. Because I've done a little bit of homework and developed this session plan already.
Do you print it out or do you just have it on your phone?
That one, because it's quite a bit of detail, I found it was easier printing it out, and then I just fold it up and have it in my pocket, and then I quickly get it out. What's the next thing coming up if I haven't memorized it? Often by the time you've done this lesson plan too, Rob, most of it's in your head. You've got a running sheet, and then it's just a quick reminder. Okay, that's coming up, and you don't have to read it religiously because you've done all that prep in doing it. But I'll definitely print it, and as I said, I'm going to have a folder there that you can go and pull stuff out of as well. If you're stuck for a drill, a fielding drill, it won't have all these mapped out for every session for you. But if you're looking for one drill, I'll have something you can grab and come and use if you'd like. It's more targeted to senior training, but a lot of these will relate to juniors as well. And then obviously there's a focus in terms of skills. So we can see that we've got initially we've got some batting here, then we've got some bowling, and we've also got some centre wicket, some batting, running between wicket practice. So 3 different skills being targeted there, and then some progression. So how can I make this harder as we're progressing, going along? I might have kids that move through to stage 3 really quickly, but I know how to make that harder or go back a step if I need to, because I've got it all mapped out there. And then the last thing I've done there in terms of teaching points is if I've got a parent helping me, I might print one of these out as well for the parent and say, could you mind running the batting session? Here's a little lesson plan. You just need to focus on these teaching points when we're doing the activity. Here you go. Off you go. Nice and easy. Then the modified game, it's all mapped out for us, and the cool down and what I want to focus on in terms of their game planning as well. It's all there as well. So really, really helpful. Couldn't, like I said, try it a few times before you say it's too much work, because it does get easier as well. Any questions on that?
No, it's way more organized than mine. Mine was just a Word document, Google document with listing everything. But
yeah, so if you can use it on your phone, whatever works for you. And this one I'm about to show you. While I'm talking to you, you might want to just go grab your iPhones or Androids. I haven't tried it on Android because I've got an iPhone, so I'm not sure how it looks and feels. I'm guessing it's been done for both, but I'm guessing it definitely works on the iPhone. But if you want to download, while I'm talking to you, the Cricket Australia coaching app, CA Coach, should pull up the app. Shouldn't take too long. And while you're doing that, I just want to talk to that. So when you get in, you'll see a section that says players, coaches, etc. There's a whole bunch of options. If you've got the app already on there or it's downloaded already, if you want to go into the coaches section, you'll see this like the screen you've seen on the presentation here. And there's a button in there called Training Planner. You can hit that as well and go straight into that. And it's fantastic. So I'm going to step you through. Just hold your hand up if you've got that app already on your phone. Do I need to give people a little bit longer? Jace, have you got yours downloading?
I think I've downloaded it before. I've just got to update it.
Yep. Okay.
That's on Android too.
Yeah. Bluey, all good, mate? Beautiful. Raja? Excellent. Sandy?
Oh, yeah, all good.
All good. Josh?
All good.
All good. And Menora, lucky last?
All good, man.
Beautiful. All right. Well, let's jump in and I'll step you through. Unfortunately, I don't have a casting device on my phone to actually show you what's on my screen, but you can do it along with me. Pretty straightforward. If you go into if you haven't already, go into my session next. So you've gone into training plan and go into my session, and you can see at that session stage. If you just choose the drop down box there, you can see that it'll automatically set the activities based on which level you choose. So let's all just choose Junior Cricket 1. So we're all looking at the same thing. Just type in a session name, maybe session 1 or something like that. We're going to create one. Duration, let's say 60 minutes. Everyone, okay, sing out if I've left you behind. Session overview, don't worry about that at this stage. Now, you've got some options down the bottom there. So you can see there's some session templates already developed, or you can create a brand new one. We're just going to go to CA session plan number 1. It's the first one underneath the big green button. So click on that one. You can see a 60-minute session there, and it's already developed there for you. Okay, so you can see Rob the Nest, bat taps 360 as an activity, fast feet circuit, and it's got timings there. So once we actually save what we want here, and you can see the plus sign, so you can add in activities. So just hit maybe 1 plus sign there.
Is that what it looks like, Rob?
Sorry?
Is that what it looks like? It's got a, yeah, that's what we're looking at, yeah? It's got this overview.
Yeah.
Look the same on yours? Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
same as mine.
Yeah, cool.
Perfect. All right. So, yeah, so you can customize that, or you can just go with the ones that are already there. And then if you click also on the actual activity names themselves, it gives you a choice to view this activity, and it'll kick you off to a little template, which actually has a video of the activity running, as well as you know, the equipment required, etc. So the world's your oyster here. You can create using this app all of your little sessions in advance, and then you just, once you've got them created, if you go back and you'll go into my session plans, all the ones you've created will be stored in here, and you just run them. And once you run it, while you're running it, it'll actually give you a timing as to where you're at in the session and how long you've got in that particular activity left as well. So my suggestion is get familiar with it before we start the season. Great opportunity now with a bit of downtime, but maybe set up a few session plans in advance so you're ready to go. And there's lots of different things in here too. So you can search by activities, and also in this section, if you go back to the home page, hitting the little home button at the top or back, depending on where you're at, you can actually see for players, you can go in and see fielding drills specifically as well, and things for your players that they could actually use as well. You don't have to be there coaching them. You might get them to look at, if you go into the players section now, you can see above the shoulders, there's a whole bunch of videos there on the mental side of cricket. So you might, as a bit of homework, ask them to go and view the first one about being present in that section as well. So lots of really, really useful videos, activities, session planners, lots of really useful information from Cricket Australia, and I was rapt to see that today. So that'll be a great resource for all of us moving forward, I think. And I'm not sure, I haven't played around with enough, but I think once you created your session plans in here, I'm hoping we'll be able to share them with each other as well as we create them too. So if you've got a session that worked really well, you might want to share it with the other under 12 coach or other coaches in the coaching community at Nunawading. Any questions on that? All good? Let's see some thumbs up.
All good, and yeah, watching through the features of the CA coach.
Fantastic. There's some, I've only had a quick glimpse, but the basics of cricket under coaches, there's some really good things for you if you're a first-time coach. Some of the focus, things to focus on. We'll be touching base on them over the next 2 sessions, so batting and bowling. Hopefully that can be supplemented by some of the things on here. We go into a lot more detail than I've seen under that basics of cricket, but the high level stuff there is a great start for you as a developing coach in there too. That's about all I wanted to cover off. Before we sign off, maybe if we just go around the group, maybe one thing you picked up on today that you'll stick in the that knowledge big brain of yours and be able to use again somewhere down the track. So I might start with just people in order. Bluey, you're first on my little video screen here. What's one thing, mate, that you'll take away from today?
Take away that I've got some potential coaches on the line who are obviously already thinking about how they might be able to contribute. So that's my biggest takeaway. I mean, I've been to these sessions before. So yeah, that's a massive thing for me, just to get more people who are keen to contribute. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've got some talented coaches in this group, mate, going by some of the answers and responses today. Raja, you want to jump in next, mate? What's a takeaway for you from today?
I think when we start on the day one, knowing the names of the players and their parents is very most important thing to engage them. That's the important thing for me.
Yeah.
I remembered it because I am poor at names. Don't think because it is I'm Indian. Even Indian names I forget. So I am poor at names in general.
Yeah. So just try and. I'm not great with the names themselves, but I'm good at doing that association piece. So I'll often try and link something I know about them to help me remember the name. So
yeah, I ask my kid, what's the name, what's the spelling, and then I try to remember it every time.
Yeah. And make sure after you ask them, the best tip I ever got was to repeat it straight away. So it's really easy to ask them because you haven't said it hasn't gone in. So repeat it a few times in your discussions with them in the next minute or so.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Sandy, you're next on my list.
Yeah, I think a good takeaway of this session was learning about parental buy-in techniques. I think it was useful.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything in particular, mate, that stood out for you?
No, just like the techniques, like overall, how to attract more parents and to the club or program. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks,
Andy.
you. Yeah.
Josh, what's one thing you'll take away, mate?
I think it's the parental buy-in, just like how you add different techniques and just the communication and how it's very important to contact parents and contact players and what the season will be like and everything. So. Yeah.
And as a young coach, you might not be coaching your own team right now, but in the future, some of that phone call beforehand, it's a little bit less stressful too to actually engage people over a phone than into the face-to-face environment. But you've already had one interaction over the phone. Then when you meet them, that next one's a lot easier too, as well, is what I've found. And I do that when I was a corporate trainer. I'd made sure I greeted people as they came in the door and had a little conversation. And then during the session, I've already got a small relationship to get them more involved. So the same works here. Manora, next up, mate.
Rob, I think for me, the biggest takeaway is seeing that planning, the document that you showed, to have something like that gives such a structure. And I believe with structure comes discipline and professionalism. So that's pretty amazing to see. Yeah. I'm pretty sure everybody uses that, but for me, it's the first time seeing something like that. So that was a good eye opener.
Yeah, good, mate. And yeah, give it a whirl. But I'd also try the online app as well. Because
it seems like you can share. You can. It creates a PDF of your plan, and you can share it.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
Nice one. So if we've got any app experts moving forward, we might run a session on that, incorporate that too. So yeah, great. Jace, what about for you, buddy?
Well, a lot of this stuff, because I was doing the course last year, it's been great to have the refresher. Just a couple of tiny things I picked up on, like, for example, using a whistle.
Yeah.
I've always used my voice to do it, but yeah, a whistle's been far more effective, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Covers a lot more ground and might save your voice from having to yell with the big groups. Fantastic.
I've trained myself in projection, so it's not usually an issue. I don't wear my voice out that quickly. Good
to hear. Rob, lucky last, mate.
I don't know how you don't go without a whistle, but I had to get that. I see there's also on my training, there's a parent coaches section as well, which is quite interesting. So I think I'm going to have to go through and watch a lot of videos on that one. Go through that. Yeah, it's good. I think, yeah, it's good to know that I'm on the right path as far as like making my own documents, because it makes sense to me, and then finding out that people also have done that already.
Yeah.
So it obviously worked for them as well. So that's good.
Good work, mate. Glad we've been consistent with what we're delivering with what you're already doing. Fantastic. That's all we've got to cover off for today. If you've got any questions, by all means, reach out to myself or Andrew. Love to hear from you at any time. That's part of the offering we've got at Nunawading. Always happy to help. I think we've got the next session planned for not next Wednesday, the Wednesday after, session 3, and we'll be covering off some of the batting basics as well. So it might be good to have a quick peek at the app around some of the basics of batting, and then we can reinforce that with a little bit more detail. I've got some really good examples and pictures of some of our better batters out there in world cricket to compare and contrast to for you as coaches. So it should be a good one. There's a lot to get through next week. Bluey, I think we, from memory, ran quite a bit over time because it was quite detailed. So just as a heads up, we might need a little bit more time, people, if you can give us maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes extra on top of the hour. I think we've even run over on this one anyway. So thank you very much for your time. Bluey, anything else from you, mate?
No, just I guess we're all just in a bit of a holding pattern, but as Rob said, let's make the most of the opportunity. Get well prepared for when we do hit the season, because when we do, it'll be hitting the ground running. There might only be maybe 2-week kind of lead into the season, and so as coaches, we need to be well prepared and ready for that, for that go time, because there won't be much time to get things kind of up and running and ready for for the first game. So just a heads up. But I'll send out some comms around that when I know any more. And obviously we're all just in this kind of holding pattern at the moment. But there will be definitely a delay to the start, which is normally the second week of October. We're all just waiting to see when we can get out and train again, obviously, with all the restrictions and lockdowns. So yeah.
Fantastic. And if anyone is developing a little lesson plan, I'm happy at the start of next week, if you'd like to share that with the group, share some of your hard work. I love the little presentation from Raja today, so I'd love to see some of your session plans potentially next week as well, if you'd like to do that as well. So look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, but sing out if you've got any questions in between now and then.
Thank you and have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Great session. Thank you.